Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for May. Yep. The sun is shining. The birds are almost singing. The birds are able to go out and do lots of different things because lots of people aren't about for the birds to have their stuff getting interfered with, you know, because everybody else at the moment, they're potentially still in isolation. You could say that a lot of people, depending on their situation, they're under a little bit of a lock and key. Yeah, I'm going there. So I need an expert in that situation. I need somebody who's been involved in the lock and key situation. And I need somebody who's maybe once they get released, they're quite happy to just get out there and show their stuff, show their skills, show their personality, the type of person, the type of character that they can be. So there's only one thing you can do in this situation. From the Netflix series Locke and Keye, I've got Jesse Camacho. Hey, Jesse, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you? Thank you. That was quite the introduction. I appreciate it. Oh, man, that was funny. You probably hear me snortling like a little bit, trying to turn my head away from the mic.
It's just, it's just one of these things that kind of happens. People will recognize, people won't recognize you unless I put a picture up, and then they'll go, I recognize them. But I've got
that pretty distinguishing high voice. Maybe they'll recognize my high-pitched voice from screaming down in the caves. He's that annoying one who kept screaming.
We might have to kind of see. I mean, let's turn it one side. Do you do professional screaming services then? I mean, as part of your portfolio, I'm just because when I was speaking to Paula Deming not too long ago, I looked through their professional kind of CV, and one of the things they talked about was balloon modeling and firearms. And I was just wondering, on your acting CV, do you have a kind of a professional screaming range of screaming? And is that something that you've practiced over kind of a period of time?
That's a great question. I wouldn't say that it's not, I don't have I wouldn't say I'm an expert at screaming per se, but I do some voice work. So there is some voice training and I guess diaphragm prep, especially when you do this is a little inside scoop. When you do a video game, sometimes you'll be invited in to do these things. They're called barks, which is just for 2 hours straight. You literally just yell get down, get down, get down in 4 different ways. And there's a bunch of those kind of, and then there's different deaths. So there's shot, shot, then stabbed, shot, stabbed, set on fire, shot, stabbed, set on fire, fall down a cliff. So you're and so I wouldn't say I'm a
so in Street Fighter, so in Street Fighter 2, when they were doing the echo thing, and when you got punched out and it went,
oh yeah,
that's professionally what they know as a bark. They would have done that,
exactly. There's a lot of those. It's small hurt impact, large hurt impact, which is or sorry, I'm deafening the listeners, but
I'm just wondering if there's people that are known for doing that, and then what happens is you'll get them kind of sitting around, kind of at the coffee in the local cafe with their other voiceover friends, kind of going, did you get the job then? It's nah, man, they took Jerry on instead. Jerry? Yeah. Did you hear he's getting garroted by a unicorn one? Yeah, I went for that one especially. Did you hear it? Yeah, it was just, that sounded like a horse. There's no way that was a unicorn kind of thing. There must be because I think the thing about video games and stuff like that is there's, and even on animated stuff, there's kind of set 4 or 5 kind of voice people that everybody go. You know, your Nolan Norths
Mhm.
of this world. You know, everybody. You know, even Matt Mercer.
Yeah, there's a
He's
lot of
known
big
for his.
dogs for sure, especially in that world. I think Montreal actually has Montreal's where I'm from originally. I currently
Mhm.
live in Toronto, but I'm staying in Montreal during this kind of weird
Mhm.
time. But yeah, in Montreal, there's quite a big voice market. But yeah, the more kind of specific you get, like when you start talking
Yeah.
about video games and all that mocap work, there are the kind of Mount Rushmore of guys, and yeah, people like Nolan North are right up there. I mean, he's just so good at it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how like specific it gets in terms of like screams and stuff, but there's definitely your go-to video game actors for sure.
How did you get involved in your craft? I mean, growing up,
Mm-hmm.
where did you whereabouts in I take it whereabouts in Canada did you grow up?
So I grew up in it's a place called the West Island of Montreal, which is just
Mhm.
kind of a little island off Montreal. It's basically still part of it. There's like a short bridge to
Mhm.
get there. And I grew up there until I was about 10, and then we moved downtown Montreal, and then 10 years ago or so, I moved to Toronto. But where I got into acting, actually, my parents were both actors. Fun fact.
All right. Okay.
So I kind of wanted to do it coming out of the womb. My parents were a little hesitant at first. They're like, "Are you sure? There's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of no. Like, you got to have a pretty thick skin." And I was a bit of a sensitive kid,
Yeah.
but I was like, "No, I want to do it." And so when I was about 8, they were like, "All right, if you want to do it, let's give it a shot." And they've been, really supportive. And now my sister's in it as well. So I'm kind of an odd case. We're like a family of actors over here.
But was it not the case then that kind of like while other people's parents kind of went to work on like a 9 to 5 and they were home Saturdays and Sundays, you kind of growing up, it would have been a case of you were used to kind of like there wasn't necessarily such a thing as a 9 to 5, and then sometimes there would be like a, sometimes you'd see your parents for like weeks at a time while they were waiting for the next gig to get lined up, and then other times they'd be gone for like a full day and coming back kind of late. So did you almost kind of get in, not indoctrinated, but were you used to kind of that kind of life anyway, not kind of steady hours and people kind of things kind of changing between jobs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's exactly like you said. That's the thing with this industry is it's sort of feast or famine. So when let's say my dad would book a big job, there would be sometimes it was a week, sometimes it was a month, sometimes it was 2. Where especially even if he was shooting in the city, where he would be gone most of the day. But then depending on how little or how much production was in town, he would be home for a couple months. My parents are very fortunate that they've and they're talented as well. I don't want to take away from them, but that they've been able to etch out a living on this. It's not an easy career to make a living off of, and they've done a really good job. They also do a lot of voice work too, and my dad dips his toes into directing cartoons and directing video games as well as a sort of a gig to keep sometimes keep finances coming in when film work dries up. So we're very fortunate that we've been able to kind of stay alive in that industry.
And your mum was doing some voices for one of my favorite animes ever, which was Samurai Pizza Cats.
Oh, I think my dad did that too. Samurai Pizza Cats. Yeah, I remember them talking about that a lot.
It was like one series. I think it like lasted a year, and it was just like this. It was just I'd never ever seen anything before because obviously in Scotland we didn't have a lot of exposure to kind of like the Japanese anime kind of culture.
Right.
Not for years, not until years later when people went, "Oh, you get kind of cartoons in Japan." It's like, yeah, you got to check this stuff out. So just to know that they're part of, or they were part of that voiceover stuff, just blows my mind and just makes me a very, very happy person. Kind of indeed.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to let them know because that's that. I feel like that's a deep grab. But it's funny because they've mentioned that show a lot sometimes when talking about stuff they've done. But I'll definitely mention that. They'll be.
Oh, it was kind of, it blew my mind. You got to remember that at the time there was kind of like the Thundercats had come and gone, and then you kind of got like Visionaries was a big thing as well. But then there was a lot of the stuff that was coming over from Saban, who I think they did a lot of animation stuff, which was based in Japan, and then they just did the voiceover work to kind of westernize it. So, but Samurai Pizza Cat's just kind of stuck in my mind that they, just now, kind of like 25, 30 years later.
I was gonna say, it was
I just saw it. I was just like, whoa, that's like one of my.
But I know what you mean. It kind of filled that void. Like it filled a bit of a gap there.
Yeah, exactly. So, when did you when you were growing up, did you ever rebel against your parents? Then did you just like say, right, I've had enough of the two of you talking like that to me, not respecting my space. I am going to go to college and I'm going to become an accountant. And
that would make me so much more interesting. No, honestly, like my sister did a bit. Sarah, her name is. She for a while. It wasn't really a rebellion. I think it was just more. She was saying like, I think it was just wanting to do something different, but it wasn't done in any kind of. And also, it would have been a pretty lackluster rebellion because she would have said it. And my parents would have been like, "Oh, great, thank you for not becoming an actress. That's wonderful. We really appreciate it." So it's almost like it would have been a pretty lame rebellion, but she did. She was the one who said for a while, like, "No, I want to try doing other things." And then she had a knack for it, and she started doing school plays, and you just saw it. Like it was like, "There's no way this is what you want to do." We're like the Corleone family. Every time you think that we're out, they pull us back in.
Cuddly.
But no, me, like it was the whole time. Like I was one of those kind of underachievers in high school where I wouldn't pay as much attention, or I wasn't like a bad student. I wasn't a rebel. I was really a square, to be honest. But I just knew what I wanted to do. So when I was in math class, it was in the back of my head all the time. I was like, I don't need this. I just want to be on set. Like that's, this is, but turns out that you need those things for the part-time jobs you're going to have to get to pay the bills. So, but it never occurred to me to be anything else. It really didn't.
Were you a little bit of a show off as a kid then? Did you like to entertain people?
I did like to entertain people. If you watch my home movies, I'm very annoying because I'm always trying to like jump in front of the camera. Like there's videos of like my sister's talent show or things like that where, well, maybe not a talent show, but where the video would be about my sister and I'd be like running in front of grabbing the camera and like, film me and always trying to entertain. And I've tampered that down a little bit. I think, the older you get, the more you want to save that stuff for work and then kind of enjoy your downtime. But, 100%. I was, especially, I would say until the age of like 12, right before I went into high school, I would say, I really wanted to be the center of attention.
And what kind of changed at high school then? I take it, because the one thing I know about high school is becoming the center of attention. Mm-hmm. Isn't necessarily the place you want to be.
Yeah, I guess like I guess I've always been a big kid. I've always struggled with my weight, and I think that there's something about that kind of weird juxtaposition of like wanting to be in the spotlight, but when you struggle with your self-image, you also want to shy away from it. So it's a really kind of an interesting headspace to be in. But yeah, I mean, I think initially going into high school, I wanted to be the center of attention, and then not bad. Like I don't want to it's certainly not newsworthy headline stuff, but I was bullied a little bit. Again, it wasn't bad. Nobody beat me up. It wasn't like that. I wasn't like harassed, but I was teased and stuff. And I think that kind of just took that wanting to always have people look at me thing kind of away. I still loved public speaking and I loved doing plays and I was a goof, but I wasn't always trying to be the head of the group. And I just think that my confidence got a little shaken, but again, really not in a horrible way, probably in a pretty healthy way, to kind of think twice before jumping in front of everything.
Yeah. Were you doing kind of like roles when you were in high school? Was there times that you were actually had to kind of take leave from your studies and from school to kind of get involved in kind of doing a gig or doing a role or anything like that?
Yeah, several times. There's two that really come to mind. When I was in, I believe, grade 9, I left for think it was about 2 months to shoot a movie in
Wow.
Nova Scotia called Summerhood, which was super fun. And you get tutored on set. And so that one I was gone for a little while, and it ended up costing me because I ended up failing math that year and I had to do summer school. But in my mind, it was a
Ouch.
small price to pay. I was like, all right, okay, fine. I got to go to summer school for an hour a day because I got to take 2 months off school to go shoot this movie. Again, I was tutored, but I feel on-set tutoring is good, and you get some one-on-one attention, but it just doesn't compare, with actually being in school. And then the other time was in my graduating year. I had to leave the first 2 months of the year. I was on a television series called Less Than Kind, which shot in Winnipeg, Canada. And I was sort of the center of that show. We actually went for 4 seasons, but our first season was my senior year in high school. So I missed a chunk of my graduating year. So it's and also like little bit parts here and there. Those were the biggest ones, but I'd also have like as I say, like a couple days here and there. Or if I had 10 days on a movie, I missed 10 days throughout 3 months of school. Nothing too crazy. Those were the 2 big chunks that I missed.
But I mean, Less Than Kind, as you said, it ran for 4 seasons. Did you see a change to kind of like your life? I mean, what did you become? Were you kind of then becoming kind of part of the family business? Because I take it your mum would have been working away, your dad would have been working away, and then I'm guessing that you're, doing this job. You're not doing it for free. You're kind of getting looked after, and you're kind of getting paid. So was that? Did it come? I mean, because people say, "Oh, I'd love to just be doing this kind of thing. I'd love to be acting. I'd love to be on the stage." But then the actual reality of kind of it then actually saying, well, this is my job. I can't, if I'm having a bad day and I'm shooting a scene where it's meant to be the happiest day because it's my birthday party, I just need to switch it on and get professional and stuff like that. So was there a switch on there when you started on Less Than Kind where you kind of went, wow, this is it. This is the real deal. This is actually, this is me kind of turning this into kind of like a career here.
Yeah, I think that the switch for that came a little earlier. I did a movie called 12 and Holding between elementary school and high school that shot actually in New Jersey in the States. And I was one of the 3 it was really about 3 kids. And I was one of the 3 kids. And that was when I went, it was my first kind of big job where I was, I was there throughout the whole shoot. I was one of the leads of the film, and I remember that being the time where I was like, this is really serious. But on your other point, which is interesting, was I found it easier to make those switches when I was a kid. Like if I was not having a good day or whatever it was, I found it easier to turn it on when I was a kid. When I was doing Less Than Kind, I was in that kind of fun. I think I started on the show when I was 17. Might have been 18. 17 and 18, and we wrapped when I was 22, I want to say. So, during that, I know I was always professional and I was always easy to work with, but, I was also really kind of young and really easy for me to have crushes and fall in love with people that were coming on and guest starring on the show and being really sad when, I would have young heartbreak, which was hilarious because the heartbreak was usually so one-sided because the other person didn't even know I liked them. And I would be moping in the corner, and Wendell Meldrum, who played my mom on the show, an amazing woman. Fun fact, if anybody's a Seinfeld fan, Wendell played the low talker on Seinfeld, who makes Jerry Seinfeld wear the puffy pirate shirt. Anyway, but Wendell would come up to me and be like, "It's okay, don't worry, maybe she likes you back." And I'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, and action, I'd have to be all happy. But I was such a baby. I think back on it now, I was like, really? You were upset about that? So I feel like that got harder. I can do it now, but there was that weird kind of, when you're, under 20 years old and your problems seem like they're the biggest in the world, and they're really not.
When you're, again, in the end, I mean, one of the things people talk about, in the industry, the gossip merchants and things like that, is they're talking about, you can't move around in the acting circles, too much because you'll just keep bumping into bowls of cocaine that's everywhere, and there's all night parties, and there's like drink and drugs, and everybody's sleeping with each other. Yeah, did that kind of happen, or is that just kind of like one of these things that people like to maybe think that happens? Or did your parents kind of were they quite protective? Did they try and kind of keep you away from that kind of nonsense as well?
Again, I'm sort of a unique case in how boring I am. This answer will get more interesting, I promise. But no,
I'll judge you on it.
Yeah, exactly. My parents were, I think, pretty standard. It was always as long as you're being safe. I mean, yeah, I'm very close with my family, with my parents especially. Like,
yeah,
that surprises a lot of people. I speak to my parents basically every day. We're very, very tight, and I just think it was a result of that closeness that I never really wanted to rebel or, do anything crazy. So I will say two things are true at once, and people might believe me, they might not. I personally never got sucked into that kind of, going for several trips to the bathroom to go skiing, quote unquote. But it's a real thing. I know that, and I've been to parties where it's happening. I've been offered many times, and oh yeah, it's 100% real. I don't know. I think I'm someone who has suffered a lot from anxiety. So the idea of me getting more in my head on a substance, I was like, oh God, like this just feels like a recipe for disaster. But not to encourage anyone to do it, but I've been at really, really fun parties where people are hopping, and I'm like, hey man, good for you. You look like you're having fun. And, so yeah, it's a real thing for sure. I just, it's never been appealing to me, I think, in a weird way because of my anxiety. They say anxiety sucks and it's a negative, but for me, it's probably actually been a kind of a protection in a weird way. I do enjoy drinking though. I have been known to have a drink or two in my time, as anyone who was at the Locke and Key premiere can very much attest to. So that's my indulgence. It's an open bar.
When people always talk about that, I'm always reminded of the scene in Airplane where they say to the woman on the plane, "Do you want a drink just to calm your nerves?" She goes, "Certainly not." And then she turns around and she starts taking the lines of cocaine. And I'm just like,
that was the original, okay. Right? The original one, not the second one.
That was the original. Okay. Yeah, the original, and still the completely politically incorrect film ever. But it's still got one of the most. It's got one of my most favorite lines in a film ever, which was like just everything that Leslie Nielsen did, just anything hysterical. At all. He was just amazing when he said, and we're having problems with the plane. He says, "Yes, I know. I came as soon as I heard." And even just now, I just think that's just it's these deadpan kind of delivery, kind of, which is always kind of good. When you're approaching a role, is there some roles that you find easier to do than others? I mean, would you consider yourself a fairly kind of happy-go-lucky, kind of friendly type role actor, or would you prefer something to kind of be a bit more serious to kind of get your kind of your teeth round?
I think it's a mixture of both, right? Obviously, the saying is variety is the spice of life, which I agree with. I definitely do think some are, I wouldn't even necessarily say easier. I would just think that they're, I guess easier is the right word. I don't know where I was going with that. Like, for instance, somebody like Sheldon, the character I played on Less Than Kind, or even Doug on Locke and Key are actually quite different, but they were both easier for me because they were kind of different aspects of my personality. Sheldon, I think is sort of I would say the nicer, softer side of me. He had a bit of an edge, but, he was sort of the one that liked to be the therapist of the group. He was the only sane member of his family. That's not the case for me, but I'm certainly someone that I feel like I can be the voice of reason a lot. I do, of course, like everyone else, go off the handle occasionally. So that definitely scratched that part of me. And then, with Doug on Locke and Key, he's a little more sarcastic and a little more jokey and a big film buff. And that's certainly a part of myself as well. So that's certainly easier in terms of getting in their skin. Like, there's not a lot of prep work I have to do besides memorizing my lines and trying to come up with a fun spin on some of the stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
people would tell me that that's an issue. I need to dig a little deeper, but I just relate to them more. And then I did this movie called We're Still Together. That's about a kid kind of who's been kicked out of his house, who's very, very much bullied, who is very shy and an introvert, wandering the streets for a night. And that I could relate to as well, but that I felt I had to like tap into a darker place. So I would try to, go to set. That's actually pretty funny. I would listen to the Annie soundtrack. I don't know why, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to share that little grain of truth.
Well, just there you go. I'm an open book. And you get to that kind of a headspace so that when you get to set, this is kind of a weird thing too. You get to that dark place so that when you get to set, you can be more lively between takes because you've already kind of gotten to that dark place. But I also like doing things different. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but what I also really enjoy playing is the kind of fast talking, I call it the Vince Vaughn kind of fast talking ladies man, even though that's so not me, but I do enjoy when I get to pretend to be that, because I feel like I can fall into doing it easily, even though it's not a skill I naturally possess. But yeah, I think, variety is the spice of life. And I definitely agree that I definitely think that that's the case for me as an actor, but there are definitely roles that are easier than others. That was a really long answer to your question, but yeah.
There's no right answers to these questions. And sometimes there's not really kind of any questions, Jesse, to be perfectly honest. In terms of like the style of acting, would you prefer somebody to kind of ad lib, to say, okay, this is a character, this is a situation, we're going to give you a couple of feeder lines, and I just want you to kind of come out with what you expect? Or do you prefer things to be fairly kind of tightly scripted?
I think that I like both those ways of working. I guess it depends on the project. Something like Locke and Key, when you've got people like Meredith Averill and Carlton Cuse writing it, they're kind of the gold standard. So I do want to stick to the script as much as possible. I'm open to improvising, especially with those people, the squad, the Savini squad. They're just really fun people to be around with, and we have a natural rapport on and off set. So I do think that there is some benefit to that, but the script is already so strong that you don't really feel the need to do it. It's same thing with Less Than Kind. But on like small kind of indie stuff, or they give you that freedom to really discover the character because there might not have been a rehearsal process or anything like, or even just kind of really broad comedy, I think it's to the benefit of everyone involved to let the actor run free a little bit. And if it's not working, you can always fall back on the script. I did a movie in Vancouver called Rapture Palooza, which was a really kind of fun movie that didn't really do too well because it had a very similar plot to This Is the End, the great Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
It had a very similar concept, and it actually had Craig Robinson in it as well. But it was just too similar. And on that one, they were very, very encouraging of improv. And I think some of the best moments of the film come from that. So yeah, I think it depends on the project. Like, something written by a great writer like Aaron Sorkin, you almost don't want to touch it. It's just good. Or even like a Quentin Tarantino. But then, you get people like Judd Apatow that write a great script and then they encourage the actors to improvise and they get more gold. So it really just kind of depends on the script and the project and, what the vibe of the set is. But I'm open for both. They're both really fun.
Yeah, no, I was watching, of all things, I watched We're the Millers.
Oh yeah.
And the guy, they've got this the circus kind of the kind of the carnival guy who's like is kind of like the part-time boyfriend, and they just have a scene at the end where they've got him just ad-libbing how he's reacting to one of the characters, kind of telling, kind of hitting him after she's punched him, and it reminded me of very much like Ryan Reynolds. How he was just kind of feeding lines and he was just ad-libbing one thing after another. And Ryan Reynolds does this great thing where he's just about to get punched by Gina Carano. And he says, well, you're going to leave me here with, hey, you guys, and less angry Rosie O'Donnell. And you can just imagine he's just like fed the line again and again and again to get it through. And I was just interested to see, because I know depending on the kind of the director, some of them might be strict and want you to do some of them are famous for doing like, 30 or 40 takes with the same line just to try and get it the right way. And other times, I know of other ones that are just like, okay, go with it. Let's just film the same scene and just keep running. And you just keep throwing lines at me, and we'll just see kind of which ones that would kind of work. For yourself, are there any directors you would love to kind of work with? One, you get your big names out there, but are there ones that you've been seeing that are doing some, fantastic work that you would love to kind of get involved with?
It's funny. Lately, I mean, of course, I've got a very similar list to a lot of people, I think, with like Spielberg and Scorsese and all those people. But lately, the one that's probably near the top of my list is Greta Gerwig, who obviously did Lady Bird and Little Women.
Yeah.
I really love the way she writes, the way she directs, and the character work in those movies. I really, really think is super cool. And she just seems like a really fun presence. And then another one, does she direct as well? Of course, coming out of the UK is, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like, ridiculous. Like talent like that is just, she's a freak of nature.
Did you watch Fleabag?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Loved brilliant. It. So good. And, I remember when the first season sort of ended, and she was like, "Oh, I'm never touching it again." I was like, you know what? That's as much as I was bummed out because I love the character. I was like, well, it's if she says she's done, like, don't force her to write it. And then, so when the second season came out, part of me was like, oh boy, she went for the money. It's not going to be as good. And then I watched it. I was like, nope, shut me right up. It was fantastic. Everything about it was great. So yeah, I just think she's unstoppable. So yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Greta Gerwig are the ones that are sort of top of my list right now.
There's things I keep discovering about Phoebe Waller-Bridge all the time, and it's like one of them was like she was the droid in Solo.
Yeah, I only found that out later as well.
But I was just like, oh, okay. And then watching back, it's like, well, that makes all of a sudden an awful lot of sense. But it's just for that, it's like and I just go back and there's certain episodes I'll just watch of Fleabag season 2. And there's just certain parts of it that absolutely, you just go, well, how did you go that and take that? It's like the whole looking at the camera and being kind of self-autobiographical.
So genius, yeah.
And then the priest turns around and goes, what are you doing? It's like, what?
I literally stood up off of my couch and I was like, whoa, what just happened here? It was so good.
It was breaking the fourth wall stuff. And it's just like, what are you doing? Every time you talk that way, you kind of disappear for a bit. And it's like, he's like managing to break the fourth wall kind of with her. And I was just like, yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, I'd love to see what she does next. I think, I hope she maintains the independence and doesn't kind of get, pushed along a certain path, because I know that there's probably sitting in her mailbox, there's no doubt about 57 different variations on, here's a version of Fleabag that we would love you to kind of write and kind of direct. What about yourself though? I mean, as time goes on, because you kind of go two ways with the acting. I think there's some people that just seem to be, they call kind of like, the continual the man, and they keep turning up in kind of every, regular movies, regular parts. As time goes on, have you thought about going on the other side of the camera? I mean, have you thought about kind of doing a little bit of directing, a little bit of script writing yourself as time goes on?
Yeah, I mean, I've made little shorts with my friends and roommates and stuff. Writing really speaks to me. I enjoy that process a lot. Directing, I really like the idea of it. What intimidates me about directing more is the technical side. I'm really kind of inept technically. Mm-hmm. So I would need a really good first AD. Working with actors, I think I could do, but just like, plotting out a scene, just the idea that intimidates me. But I've written some stuff, and I've always got stuff kind of fiddling around. So it really does. The whole process really intrigues me. I just would need to learn more a little bit about the technical side of things.
And of course, you're in that situation that you need to keep working to keep this kind of the steady income kind of coming in. So then you're kind of balancing the spare time, the free time that you have off with kind of preparing for the the next thing. What was it like, kind of landing Locke and Key when you got the phone call to say, right, you're kind of going to be in. You're going to be in as you're going to be in the character.
Yeah. It was pretty cool how that all went down. So I'm not sure if everyone knows the kind of tumultuous history Locke and Key had getting to the big screen, the small screen, however you'd rank it. That there was obviously it's these great graphic novels written by Joe Hill and illustrated by Gabriel Rodriguez, and there was a Fox pilot many years ago, not many, like 10 years ago, that never ended up getting picked up. And then a couple years, or then 2 or 3 years ago, there was a Hulu pilot that was also shot in Toronto. And I actually read for that pilot for the role of Rufus, which ended up going to Kobe.
Oh, right, okay.
And Kobe, thank God it went to Kobe, because I mean, he's just way better than I would have been at that. He's amazing. And he should have his own show. I love Kobe. So I didn't get it. And then about a year later, I got another audition for Locke and Key for the pilot. And I was like, oh my God, like how long have they been shooting this thing? And then I kind of looked, I was like, oh, it's a kind of a new pass at it. And the character was Doug, and I read the description and I was like, oh my God, I mean, this is me. Like a horror movie fan, check, the kind of sarcastic, funny guy, maybe a little insecure. That's why he uses his humor. I was like, well, I know what to do for this. So I put on my Pennywise the Clown t-shirt that my sister had got me for Christmas. And the audition scenes were basically all the scenes with the Savini squad in episodes 1 and 2. So meeting Kinsey and watching the movie and then filming, the splattering, all of that was in the sides. And, because they're big group scenes, I was like, what am I going to do while I'm kind of just standing there? Like, I've got to throw out a line, and then there's, like 4 or 5 other people talking, and it's hard to stay interesting in an audition. So I went out and I bought a small bag of Goldfish crackers, and I just kind of stood there and ate when it wasn't on me. So that was good. And then, a week later, I was sitting in my basement watching Lost with my roommates who had never seen it. And I love Lost. Yeah. Like, it was my religion in high school, essentially. And my agent called me and she was like, listen, they're really looking at you for this Locke and Key thing. Like, get ready, because this could be a pretty big thing. And I was like, oh, wow. And also, I'm quite a bit older than the character. Doug's supposed to be, I think, around 17. I am not around 17. I'm in my diplomatic of you. I'm gonna be 29 in a couple weeks, and really? I know I've got a bit of a baby face. So I just kind of, I don't know why. I did not think, I knew I was right for it. I knew it was a lot like me, but it was a huge US show. I was like, I just don't see this going my way in the end. So when my agent told me they're really looking at you, I said, well, I should find out more about this project. So I looked it up and I saw one of the creators was Carlton Cuse, who was one of the main showrunners on Lost, which I was literally sitting and watching when I got this phone call. So right then I was like, oh my God, this is super exciting. And then a couple days later, I booked the job, and I remember being really anxious to get on set for several reasons. One was that I couldn't make the rehearsal for the Savini squad stuff because I was shooting something else. And so I was like, I'm just going to have to get to set and not be in the way. And then, working with Carlton. And then, of course, I found out that Amelia Jones was cast, whose work I really liked, but also she's actually 17. And then I heard Griffin Gluck got cast, who I was also a really big fan of, who was 18. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired off this thing before I even get a line out, because they're going to be like, why are these students hanging out with this loser teacher who's also part of the squad who looks like he's 45? So all those things, I was really anxious, and I had no reason to be, because they were all so amazing, and I'm really good friends with all of them now. But it was overwhelming, man. It was a dream come true. It was a pinch me moment when I got that phone call.
Because, I mean, you've got there's going to be the second season.
Right.
But with the current situation, that is impacted kind of like across the board with, everything from people coming to even actually being able to go to the cinema to be able to watch things to, I'm assuming people being able to even stay within kind of like 5 feet of each other. You can imagine an intense scene. So you're going to look at this person and you're going to tell them, that it was you that took the money,
Right.
but you've got to be 5 meters apart so you don't catch coronavirus off of each other. So it's just intense shouting kind of intensifies. But I mean, that must be a tricky kind of set. And in terms of that, are you kind of on hold then? I mean, I take it you sign a contract and you say, okay, well, you're going to get paid X amount of money. Does that then, do you just say, well, I've got to wait here in the fallow season until the cameras start rolling again?
Well, I think that
kind of
it sort of works that way more for the regulars, like the leads of the show, the Locke family and people like Patrice Jones and sort of like that. I'm the Savini squad's a little more on the peripheral. So, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. We have more freedom. I can potentially go and book another show, and I'm able to do that. Whereas, I don't want to speak to anybody's contracts. I don't know this is the case. I'm just talking. This is generally how it works. When you're one of the leads, they sign you for a length of time, and if you book something else, you have to kind of go through them. They have the right of refusal. But since I'm not one of the main characters on the show, I don't have to do that. And if I were to book something else, they couldn't tell me I couldn't do it. But on the negative side is they could just go, oh, okay, forget it. We just won't bring you back then. So it kind of works both ways. But in terms of, coronavirus in the show and what sets are going to look like now, it's going to be really interesting. When I went to the premiere in LA, there were rumors that if we were going to get picked up, we didn't know at the time, that we would be going around right now. And obviously that's not the case. So the last rumor I heard was maybe the fall. I think they're going to kind of see how it goes. And I am hearing about these different kind of new restrictions that could happen on set, only 3 people in a scene, or, keeping 5 meters apart, or cutting intimate scenes or fight scenes and stuff like that. And I think that's got to depend from show to show. I think you can certainly do that with, obviously there are shows where that's very possible. But a show like Locke and Key, I mean, our writers are brilliant and they can make it work, but I feel like it could really hurt the quality of the show in a lot of ways if you're putting a leash on it in any kind of way. So I can only speak for myself. And, I certainly, I'm not, rich in any way. But if I was given the choice, I'd rather wait until we get the all clear to do the show how we want to do it than have to kind of do it under a microscope. And I say that knowing that, I'm going to be living on the street if I don't work soon. So, there's that. But I hope we can find a way around it. I don't know if they're going to, really pick up testing and they can test everybody and we just all kind of stay together. I don't really know how it would work, but I would hope that that we could find a way to not hurt whatever creative direction the writers are going in, and still proceed. But that might be too much to ask. And there's people much smarter than me who are going to make those decisions.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like an interesting time for everybody. I think it's one of these strange. It's one of these strange kind of situations that's affected everybody.
Yeah.
That it's kind of, it's affected certain people in a lot more kind of terrible ways than a lot of people. And, but it's kind of one of these things which if somebody said to me, it's like I was joking with a group of friends to say, if you got to wonder if Rise of Skywalker was meant to be now kind of like this year instead of the other year, would it have changed kind of fundamentally? Would it giving them more time to kind of go back and play around with it, would they have potentially changed the film based on what was going on, what was said? And it was the same with like kind of like Endgame, all these big films. If all of a sudden it's like, well, there's no point in you releasing it in the cinema because nobody's going to be able to see it, and it's like, well, we'll just sit on it for a while. Would have started tinkering with it? What I'm just saying is, they wouldn't have killed off Kylo Ren. That's all I'm saying, Jesse. saying let
Well,
Ben
I
Ben
agree with you
live.
on one thing.
That's,
It sounds like. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like it wasn't your favorite Star Wars movie. And I can tell you, it was not my favorite.
I kind of watched it again because it's on Disney Plus, and I'm a huge Disney shell, and give me Disney princesses, and Tangled is better than Frozen will ever be, and I'm just putting that out there. But it's kind of like it's the first. I mean, Star Wars, the first ones are. I didn't enjoy them. I did enjoy some of them more than I enjoyed others. But I thought the last one, there was too many bits where I just went, "Why did you do that?
Yeah,
Why?
I totally.
Why
agree.
did you do that?" I'm in my calm place, and then
I'm very controversial with my Star Wars takes. I don't know if I'm controversial. Maybe I'm not.
Well, how controversial? Okay, you say your most controversial thing about Star Wars, and then I'll say my most controversial thing about Star Wars, and then we'll see how controversial you are.
Okay,
Mr. Camacho.
I'm very scared. Okay,
yeah.
I don't think.
Do that.
Okay, maybe I'm not that controversial. The original trilogy to me is still the best, but I think
Right.
I think Last Jedi is not that far behind. I really enjoyed Last Jedi. That's what I would say my controversial take is. People,
I'm gonna agree with you and say that if they had some courage, they would have run with it. I'm gonna say something more controversial though. Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars films.
Okay.
And I would say, okay, it's better than Jedi. In fact, I would kind of put it, I'm very, very close to kind of putting it eeksy-peeksy with Empire.
Okay, now this is even more controversial because I am a big Star Wars fan. And this is not a knock on Rogue One. This is not a knock. It's going to sound like it, but it's not. I finished the film.
You're joking.
I swear to God. Everyone's like, okay, you like Star Wars. All right, give me your ranking. And they're like, they just assume I've seen every film because how can I say that I'm a fan and having not, although, it doesn't end there. I haven't seen all of Rebels. I haven't seen all of Clone Wars.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say the main movies, but I really liked what I saw of Rogue One. It wasn't at all I think it was on TV and I was watching it and I fell asleep. I think it was that. It was not a knock and I just never finished it. So I can't, in good judgment, rank it fairly. But so that doesn't seem terrible to me having not finished it. It just seems like I'll have to check it out. But I know
I think you should.
I will. But I know my Last Jedi take. I've had friends jokingly hang up on me. So
really,
yeah, people.
I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that. Yeah, I get it. I understand why they don't like it. And there's bits in it I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, the casino stuff.
And then there's bits in it that's like, okay.
It wasn't necessarily.
It's stuff.
But I liked it. People really got upset. I know we're getting a little off track here, but people were really bummed about, Luke. And I don't know. I thought it was cool. I was like, no, he's flawed. He's a human. He might, I don't know what the alien version of human is in Star Wars, but yes, okay, we left him in Return of the Jedi becoming a fully formed Jedi and he's made peace and everything. I like the fact that, he got knocked down in life. But I understand it. When people explain why they hated it, I'm like, all your points are valid. They make sense.
They are.
But I just liked it. He made a mistake and now he's living with regret. And then at the end, he embraces everything that he once was and dies being the legend he was kind of running away from. I just thought it was nice. I thought it was poetic. I was into it. But, that's just me.
Mandalorian 3, they're casting the season 3 Mandalorian. Okay, say season 2 is definitely, is obviously happening. It's coming out in October. Season 3, they're going out to cast. They've got the writers coming in. Jon Favreau's in, Taika Waititi's in, and they approach you and they say, Jesse, I know you're a fan.
Yeah.
We love the stuff you've done in Locke and Key and, everything else. We're going to create a character for you from the Star Wars universe and you can come in and play that character. What character are you going to be if you were in The Mandalorian, Jesse?
That's tough.
No, it's not. You're only making it tough because the first answer is the correct answer that's in your head just now.
I'm not sure I have not an established character. If I could A new character.
Yeah, of course. Any character at all.
Wow, any character. Sorry, I was just taking a sip of water there.
Any character at all.
I guess, do you have an answer in mind that you're kind of thinking for me?
No, at all. No, I just want to.
I think,
want
okay.
to see what you come out
I
with.
would want to play. I'm not sure they've had a character like this. I guess the closest would be maybe Rose in Last Jedi. But kind of a fan within the universe, if that makes sense. Like, not unrealistically, but like a historian who acts out their knowledge almost like a nerd would. You know, like someone who would meet the Mandalorian and go, like, oh my God, you're a bounty hunter. I love bounty hunters. Do you know Boba Fett? But like his knowledge isn't like a stupid fan knowledge. He's just a historian and who gets caught up in the adventure and has to sort of get off the couch and, you know, join in on the fray. And I think that's because that's sort of who I am in real life. Obviously, you know, I want to play a Jedi, but I just kind of know, I'm like, that's not really where I fit. I get that. And that's cool. Like, I'm, you know, I'm all right with that. So yeah, I think that would be the best fit for me. Well, what would your answer be?
I would always like to be a kind of like a fallen Jedi, basically. Somebody who turned their back on everything after, you know, Order 66 kind of came in.
Yeah, like the
like a kind of like
Grace Knight or something.
Like, yeah, just something like that. Just somebody who decided to turn their back on everything because they kind of were could see where the Sith were coming from, and they could.
Wasn't that sort of Ahsoka?
They were a bit
Are you talking like an Ahsoka kind of thing? Was that?
Yeah, kind of. You know, I kind of thing
I'm
like that.
I'm not overly familiar with her,
you know,
I realize she walked away from being a Jedi, right? That's
she
okay.
did.
That's
sort of
what I know about her.
Thing is that she ends up.
Yeah.
Just something like that, because I think there's still people coming on, and especially the fact that they've got, you know, of what happened at the last episode of the first season. I'm just like, yeah, if this sounds like it's really going to kick off, and it sounds like it's really good, and I think it's going to be really good for the universe. Before we go, because I'm conscious of time, and I know I've taken up far too much of your time, keeping you under lock and key.
Don't worry about me. I got nothing going until the Survivor finale tonight, so.
I was just worried I'm going to end up missing The Bachelorette. But
I watched The Bachelorette too.
For it's so good, and you know, and it's, you know, it's just the drama is just so.
Is there like a UK version, or do you watch the American version?
No, you have to watch the American version because they tried the UK version of The Bachelor and it was just terrible.
Didn't work
because you don't. It just doesn't. It just kind of doesn't. It just kind of doesn't work.
They're just not as crazy, right?
It just doesn't. You know, they just don't have Chris, and you need Chris.
You do need Chris Harrison. Yeah,
you need Chris. You always need Chris Harrison. Say for people who have, they're thinking about kind of getting into the profession, or they're thinking about kind of pushing forward. Is there any kind of wise words of wisdom with somebody who is kind of like doing this on a full-time basis that you would pass on?
Yes, I do have a little bit. I it's kind of twofold because like all my answers, I go on a bit of a rant, but it's something that my parents told me. First of all, for people that are trying to get into it, to me, the most important thing is just get a camera, or if one of your friends has a camera, try to get the best camera you can. It doesn't, you know, let's break the bank on it. Find someone who's got a decent camera and just film yourself doing your favorite scene from a couple of different movies. You know, do a comedy one, do a drama one. Doesn't matter if it's original. You can write one if you want. Just, put your own spin on it and send that out to agencies and try to get an agent, because that's just important. And, but also a note on that, be careful who you sign with, because some agents will try to take you for a ride. So try to read the room, but you know, a crappy agent is better than no agent. So for those people trying to get in, I would say that's the best thing you can do. Then if you're in it and you've been auditioning for a long time and you feel discouraged, but it's what you definitely want to do, this is great advice that my parents gave me, which is if you're confident in the auditions you've been doing and you've been getting good feedback, don't get discouraged if you haven't gotten the job. It's hard to say. It's really hard to live by this, but keep your head down. Keep doing good work, and eventually something will give. It might take a month. It might take 15 years. It might take longer. It might, you know, you might pull Orlando Bloom and book Lord of the Rings right out of theater school. But something will give. So that's what I would say. Keep your head down. Keep doing good work.
Excellent. Brilliant. If people have listened along tonight and they want to keep an eye on you and where you exist on the internet webs.
Oh, yeah.
Where can they find you on the internet webs?
Well,
Jesse?
as I teased, I've got a lot of hot takes on Survivor and sometimes The Bachelor, Bachelorette. I don't know if you watched the last season, but I had a lot of hot takes on Barb, which was...
We get we're about 3 or 4 seasons. I think we just had Hannah B is currently, you see, so
okay, well then
we're a little bit behind.
No. I think I'm ahead of you. Oh, you're behind.
Yeah, you are. You are. Yeah, you're
well,
ahead.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah. I prefer
the season I'm talking about is very much. I'm talking about the next season. So you're almost with me. Okay, so I had hot takes on the finale of that season.
Right.
But so I won't spoil it then. And mostly hot takes on Survivor. I'm a big Survivor buff, and I moan and complain and all that stuff. So that's my Twitter. It's at Jesse115115 because 115 was my homeroom in high school, and I just have been too lazy to change it since. And on Instagram, I'm under Jesse JD Camacho because my full name is Jesse John David Camacho.
Okay.
And I'm still kind of figuring out my Instagram identity, but there's some fun behind the scenes of Locke and Key photos on there and stuff like that.
Yeah, or get yourself to Netflix and look up Locke and Key, and you can go. You can see all of the action there.
Exactly.
That's the best thing.
Absolutely, check it out. And there's no better time to do it because nothing else.
Well, yeah. I mean, exactly. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, just go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all the different worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for the daily races. And if you want to check our podcast, go to we'renotwizards.com. You're checking out already, so thank you very much. If you want to check out any reviews, written work, you can go to we'renotwizards.co.uk. And we're on YouTube, and we're doing videos, and we're trying to be intelligent, and we're failing rapidly. If you like what you've listened to tonight, though, consider going to Apple Podcasts and dropping us a rating or a review, and tell other people about us, because we like to spread like butter. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Thank
Jesse.
you for having me, man. And I'm
really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a great time. Let's do it again. And yeah.
Good. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Jesse?
I wish, but no.
What?
Oh, are we wizards? I've got I'm bringing my Harry Potter collection right now.
But just can't. Yeah, okay. That's fine.
I am. I'm looking at my
just
collection of
wands.
Wreck
it. Don't stop it. And the other thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the crushing disappointment that is Jesse Camacho. Say goodbye, wizard boy.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll sixes, make something awful, and Locke and Key, check it out. Fast forward past certain bits, though. You know which I'm talking about. Until the next time, though. Goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.